Namaste, beloveds. This is Valerie Ames, Motherhood Wisdom, Ocean 9. Um, and I know it's been a while since I've done a video, but I felt very moved to do this particular video. And this particular video is on the emotion, the feeling, the thoughts, the philosophy, the burden, the undertaking, the association with the frequency of guilt, with the word itself, guilt, with the connotations of it. And, beloved, let me just begin by reading from the Wikipedia what it says about guilt. It says, guilt is an emotion, experience that occurs when the person believes or realizes accurately or not, that they have compromised their own standards of conduct and have violated universal moral standards and bear significant responsibility for that violation. Guilt is closely related to the concept of remorse as well as shame. Guilt is an important factor in perpetrating obsessive compulsive disorder symptoms. And beloveds, I really want to break that down because right now we are dealing with a tremendous frequency of guilt that has not only been released, unveiled, brought into the light for healing, for deep healing, for generational healing, and it's presenting itself in the form of racism. And I just want to read again, before I go into this a little bit more, what it says about guilt. And I'm going to show you this picture of this soul in bondage, this angel in bondage, this soul in bondage. And I want you to understand the frequency that I'm receiving from it. And that is one of extreme depth and commitment to this emotion and all that it entails. And that painting is by Elihu Vedder, and it was painted between 1891 and 1892, and it's called Soul in Bondage. And once again, beloveds, I ask you to just go and look at that painting for yourself. And I ask you to look for the lighting and the shades. I ask for you to look at the different, if you know anything about birth, the umbilical cords itself is very much these particular silver gray colors and this rosy golden pink hue. And beloveds, again, like I said, I want you to understand how we are tied, how we are bound by guilt. And this guilt does not have to be something that we have done personally, beloveds. It can be just a frequency that you pick up. It can be just a frequency that was passed down to you. It could just be something that your own conscious awareness is very sensitive to. And it's coming up because it needs to be addressed. because it needs to be healed. And I'm going to go into it once again. Guilt is an emotion, is an emotional experience that occurs when a person believes or realizes, accurately or not, that they have compromised their own standards of conduct or have violated universal moral standards and bear significant responsibility for that violation. Guilt is closely related to the concept of remorse as well as shame. Guilt is an important factor in perpetrating obsessive compulsive disorder symptoms. So, beloveds, in order for us to keep repeating the same cycles that we have been going through, we have to maintain this sense of guilt, this frequency of guilt. We have to pass it down generation to generation. And as long as we keep doing that, it will never be healed because it has never been felt. It has never been dealt with. It has only been pushed and repressed and overlooked and excuses made. And I want you to really understand and understand what obsessive compulsive disorder means. It means that you can't help yourself. It's deeper than your conscious awareness. It's on a subconscious level that you have to do this. Why you have to do it, you can't explain it. But it satisfies something in you. Just like we have guilt by association. You didn't do it, but you hang around that crew that does it or whatever simply because of your obsessive compulsive need to be around the frequency of guilt, to be around the manifestation of guilt, to be around the birth of guilt, the cause of guilt, to be around the exposure of guilt. And beloved, it goes to guilt is related to the concept of remorse as well as shame. So these frequencies are tied together. And if you have one, you have them all because they attract each other. And I want you to really start looking at these feelings of guilt, these feelings, period, your feelings, as frequencies that you pick up and that you tune into, that you align yourself with, that you give into, that you saturate yourself with, that you hone in on, that you follow like a beacon, like it's something that's fine-tuning you. And you don't even, we have not been taught to be aware of things, of our feelings in this manner, beloved. We have not. And it's time. It's time to really get into who am I? This is self-inquiry. And no one existing or that will exist will not experience the frequency of guilt. In one fashion, form, you're going to encounter guilt. And you're going to need to know that guilt is a contrast. Okay? Guilt is a symptomatic pain, frequency that alerts you that something is off, something is right. This speaks of universal moral standard. Something has, you experience guilt because something has violated your sense of universal moral standards, and that you bear significant responsibility for that violation. And knowing that, being consciously aware of that, causes you shame. It causes you to grieve. I really want you to understand that guilt, grief, shame, remorse, these are all frequencies that attract each other. And one more thing with this is we, as sovereign spiritual beings, incarnated into physical bodies with a conscious awareness that was already preset, that has no beginning and has no ending, and that has its own judgment values that are based upon universal moral principles. And as you receive your human identity that forms your ego and your sense and your definition of yourself and your ability to feel emotions and to tune into those emotions and to be able to blend or flow with the world that you are in. All of that is contrast. It's what you need in order to know the truth about yourself. And that is very paradoxical to our current way of thinking right now. But that's because, like I said, we have not been able to move past a certain place or state or frequency in our evolution until now. We had to experience everything that we have had to experience up until this point in order for the grief to get to where it needs to be so that we can identify it, in order for us to see that we are morally missing the universal standards, and that is causing a collective sense of guilt. It's causing a individual sovereign sense of guilt as well as a collective sense of guilt. And I'm trying to stay, hold on just a second, because I'm